Hi, I'm Andrew with Odd Harmonics, and in this video, I'll show you how to make macros in Nexus. Before we get started, this video assumes you already have Nexus downloaded and installed, so if you need to do that, check out the previous video in this series. Alright, let's get to it. First, let's look at what a macro is. In Nexus, a macro is a group of one or more actions. An action is a single task that you'd like Nexus to do. For example, an action could be play an audio file or send a TCP message. Each action has features that let you customize how it runs. For example, a macro's actions can happen all at once, or you can use delays to make a timed sequence. Conditions are a powerful way for a macro to decide whether to run all, some, or none of its actions. We'll go into conditions more in a later tutorial. For now, let's dive into the plugin itself. Alright, first make sure that Nexus is in your schematic, along with a few components with custom names. In this tutorial, we'll use an audio player and a matrix mixer. Next, go online, either with a core or in emulation mode. For these tutorials, I'll be online with a Core 110F. Next, open the Nexus component. The first thing you'll see is the Macros tab. On the left side of the screen is a list of your macros, with info about the selected macro. To the right are all the actions of the selected macro, and on the far right is the info about the selected action. For this example, let's build a macro that plays an audio file, and then fades up some mixer crosspoints. First, make a new macro by pressing the New button on the left. To name the macro, click into this name field. Let's give it a descriptive name, music to outputs 1 through 4. For now, skip this conditions section, leaving the macro always enabled. The section below conditions shows how and when this macro is triggered. It's currently empty because we just made the macro, but it will come in handy later. Next, let's give the macro some actions. When you first make a macro, it includes a placeholder action to get you started. Let's modify this action so that it plays an audio file. First, let's give the action a name that describes it: play music. We'll skip the conditions section again, leaving the action always enabled. Next, we'll tell the action what it should do by assigning it a command. This list of available commands is really long, so let's use the category filter on the left to narrow down our choices. From the category dropdown, choose the audio category, and the list of available commands becomes much more manageable. From the command dropdown, choose Audio Player, Load and Play. Next, Nexus will ask you for the information it needs to complete the command. Some parameters will be required, and others will be optional. This first parameter is the audio player name. This is the unique custom name of the component in the schematic. This dropdown contains all the named audio players in this Q-SYS design. Select the player you want to use. In my case, I'll pick Music Player. Next, select the folder that the audio file is stored in, and select the file itself. These dropdown menus show the file storage on your core. Remember, if you're emulating, you won't see any files. Next, choose how loud the player should play the file. If you leave it blank, the player will use whatever its last gain setting was. This last parameter is how long to give the player to load the file. Some large audio files might take a little bit longer, so customize this to fit your needs. Let's test this action to see if it works. Click on the Test Action button in the top right. Yep, looks good. Let's stop this player and move on to the next action. The next action will fade up some crosspoints in the mixer. Make a new action and give it a name. We'll skip the conditions section again, leaving this action always enabled. For the command, choose the audio category and the Mixer Set Crosspoints command. Because we only have one mixer in the design, Nexus selected it for us. Next, set inputs 1 and 2 to feed outputs 1 through 4. Pro tip: when the parameter is a range, you can use commas and dashes to represent multiple numbers. If you want to add or subtract gain from the previous crosspoint setting, use the relative option. But in our case, we want a specific level, so choose absolute and -6. The last parameter is ramp time, which is the amount of time it will take to fade to the desired value. Let's do a 5-second ramp time. Now, let's test our new action to make sure it does what we want. Yep, looks good. Let's reset these crosspoints. This particular audio file happens to have a few seconds of silence at the beginning, so I actually want to begin the fade 3 seconds after we start playing the file. That's easy to do. Just add a 3-second delay to the fade action. Our actions are all complete, so let's test the whole macro. Alright, we've built our first macro. For future macros, you can mix and match actions to build whatever custom functionality you need. If you have any questions about a particular action, there's a lot of useful info in the Help tab of Nexus. It gives a description of each action and its parameters. There's one last pro tip before we end. Let's say your macros have some actions with long delay times. It can be tough to keep track of which actions are coming up. For a live list of upcoming actions, go to the Status tab. On the right is a list that counts down which actions are coming up next. If you want to stop these actions, just press the Stop Queue button. Alright, that's it for this tutorial. Check out the next video in this series to learn how to use triggers to cause macros to run. For more information about Nexus or to buy a pro license, go to odd-harmonics.com. And if you have any questions, please email us at support@odd-harmonics.com. Thanks for watching.